The first battle. The Council Grand Fleet assembled in the Kepler sector, where Earth had established its largest colony complex before the withdrawal. 2,000 warships from a dozen different species formed defensive positions around the 3 habitable worlds that had been divided among Council members. Admiral Krenth of the Krillian Imperial Navy commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Unbreakable Will. He had fought in 17 major engagements across his long career. He had crushed pirate fleets, defeated rebel uprisings, and enforced council law across 100 systems. The idea that a species as young as humanity could threaten council military might was laughable. All ships report ready status, his tactical officer announced. 2,043 vessels in defensive formation. Planetary defense platforms active. Fighter squadrons deployed. We control the high ground, Admiral. Let the humans come. We will teach them the price of defiance. Admiral Krenth studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The humans would arrive expecting to find scattered garrison forces. Instead, they would face the full might of the Council military, concentrated and prepared. It would be a massacre. The humans might have built 1,000 ships, but numbers meant nothing without experience, training, and the battle-tested technology that the Council had refined over millennia. Contact at System Edge, the scanning officer called out. Human fleet entering normal space. Configuration matches intelligence reports. 1,047 ships confirmed. Admiral Krenth leaned forward. Open a general channel. Let me speak to their commander. The face that appeared on his screen was not James Kellier. This was a human woman wearing military insignia that Krenth did not recognize. Her dark eyes held a cold determination that made him briefly uncomfortable. This is Admiral Sarah Chin of the United Earth Federation. You are occupying sovereign human territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Krenth laughed, the sound rumbling through his massive chest. I am Admiral Krenth, commander of the Council Grand Fleet. I have 2,000 ships under my command, each one crewed by warriors with centuries of combined experience. Your fleet is impressive for such a young species, but you are outnumbered 2 to 1. Surrender now, and I will ensure your crews are treated fairly as prisoners of war. Admiral Chin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Admiral Krenth, you're assuming that ship numbers determine victory. That's a very Council way of thinking. Let me show you why that's a mistake. All ships engage the enemy. Let's remind the galaxy what humanity is capable of. The human fleet did not charge forward in a mass assault as Krenth expected. Instead, they spread across 3-dimensional space in patterns that made no tactical sense according to standard Council military doctrine. Then they opened fire, and Admiral Krenth realized he had made a terrible mistake. The human weapons were nothing like Council designs. Instead of traditional plasma cannons or particle beams, they used some kind of magnetic acceleration technology that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. The projectiles themselves were wrapped in fields that allowed them to pass through Council shields as if they were not even there. The first salvo destroyed 70 Council ships in the opening seconds of battle. Krenth watched in horror as vessels that had survived decades of warfare simply ceased to exist, torn apart by impacts that released more energy than fusion bombs. Return fire. All batteries maximum spread. Target their leading elements. The Council fleet opened up with thousands of weapons, filling space with enough destructive energy to sterilize a planet. But the human ships moved like nothing Krenth had ever seen. They did not simply dodge. They seemed to anticipate where Council weapons would fire before the trigger was pulled. They wove through the barrage with impossible precision, their own weapons never ceasing their devastating fire. Admiral, we've lost 400 ships, the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with panic. Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they don't exist. Our return fire is 97% ineffective. They're too fast, too maneuverable. It's like they know what we're going to do before we do it. Krenth stared at the tactical display as another wave of human weapons fire tore through his fleet. 500 ships lost now. 600. The humans were not fighting like a military force. They were fighting like a swarm of predators that had identified weak prey. Every movement was coordinated, every shot calculated for maximum effect. Sir, incoming transmission from the planetary governor, the communication officer announced. The humans have deployed ground forces on all 3 worlds. They're not attacking our occupying troops. They're evacuating human colonists and any aliens who want to leave with them. The governor is requesting immediate reinforcement. Krenth made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships, break formation. Full retreat to the outer system. We regroup and reassess. As the shattered remnants of the Council Grand Fleet fled, Admiral Sarah Chen's voice came through on all channels. This is your only warning. Humanity will reclaim every colony, free every citizen, and show no mercy to those who stand in our way. The Council's age of dominance is over. A new era has begun. The galaxy trembles. The news of the battle spread across Council space faster than light itself. The Grand Fleet, the pride of galactic military might, had been shattered by a human force half its size. Over 800 Council ships destroyed in less than 3 hours of engagement. The humans had suffered only 17 losses, and even those were ships damaged enough to withdraw rather than destroyed outright. In his private chambers, Chancellor Vrex received reports from military commanders across the galaxy. Every engagement with human forces ended the same way. Council ships outmatched, outmaneuvered, and overwhelmed. The technologies humanity had developed in 3 years of isolation were revolutionary, decades ahead of anything in Council databases. High Administrator Meln's light patterns flickered with confusion and fear. How is this possible? Our intelligence said Earth's infrastructure collapsed. Our spies reported economic chaos and social unrest. The humans should have been begging for readmission, not building superweapons. Matriarch Silene's 4 hands moved in patterns of grudging respect. We underestimated them. We believed our own propaganda. We thought that because humanity was young, they were weak. We forgot that young species can be the most dangerous because they have not yet learned the word impossible. An emergency communication came through from the Talvran government, followed quickly by similar messages from the Urati, the Mexler, and a dozen other species. They were formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council and requesting diplomatic meetings with the United Earth Federation. The carefully constructed order that had governed the galaxy for 3,000 years was crumbling. Chancellor Vrex smashed his fist into his desk hard enough to crack the metal. We will not surrender to these upstart humans. Mobilize every ship, every soldier, every resource. We will crush them. But Matriarch Silene shook her head slowly. It is already too late. Look at the sensor data from the battles. The humans are not using their full capabilities. They are demonstrating their power, showing the galaxy what they can do. They are not here to conquer us, Vrex. They are here to replace us. Ambassador James Kellier stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching as human forces liberated the 42nd and final colony. 3 years of planning, 3 years of secret construction, 3 years of innovation driven by necessity had led to this moment. The galaxy that had tried to subjugate humanity now trembled before them. Sir, we're receiving communication requests from over 30 species, the communication officer reported. They want to discuss alliance terms, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. The Council's authority is collapsing across multiple sectors. James nodded slowly. This was not about revenge. This was about ensuring that no species, human or otherwise, would ever again face the choice between freedom and subjugation. Open channels to all of them. It's time to build something better than what the Council created. It's time to show the galaxy what cooperation actually looks like. Outside the Indomitable's viewports, 1,000 burning warships held formation, their engines creating patterns of light that could be seen across the sector. They were not conquerors. They were liberators. They were proof that humanity's greatest strength had never been weapons or technology. It was the refusal to accept that anything was impossible, the determination to stand tall no matter the odds, and the willingness to fight for freedom not just for themselves but for everyone who had been crushed beneath the weight of the Council's tyranny. The silent departure had ended. The burning return had shaken the foundations of galactic power. And humanity was just getting started. Shadows in the dark. Commander Zalth of the Council Border Patrol had been monitoring the frontier sectors for 12 years. His ship, the Eternal Vigilance, was a Krillian heavy cruiser equipped with the finest sensors Council technology could produce. Tonight, those sensors were showing him something that made no sense. Commander, his scanning officer called out, her 6 tentacles working multiple control panels simultaneously. I'm detecting multiple spatial distortions at the edge of sensor range. Configuration suggests a large fleet entering normal space. Zalth moved to the tactical display. Identity? The scanning officer's tentacles moved faster. Unknown. The energy signatures don't match any registered Council vessel types. They're not using standard FTL drives. Wait, Commander, the fleet is massive. I'm counting at least 300 distinct contacts. No, 400. No, the number keeps increasing. Zalth felt cold dread settle in his 3 stomachs. Send an emergency transmission to Council Central Command. Priority Alpha. Unknown fleet detected at coordinate 774 Mark 882. Request immediate military response. The communication officer worked his station. Message sent, Commander. Central Command acknowledges and is scrambling defense forces. Estimated arrival time, 4 hours. 4 hours. Zalf looked at the tactical display as more and more contacts appeared. 500 ships. 600. 700. Whatever was coming had more vessels than the entire Council Border Patrol combined. All ships in our sector formed defensive formation. Charge all weapons. Raise shields to maximum. The scanning officer's voice took on a note of panic. Commander, I'm now detecting over 900 contacts. They're maintaining formation but advancing at 0.8 light speed. At current velocity, they'll reach the inhabited systems in 6 hours. Zalf activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All Council vessels, this is Commander Zalf of the Eternal Vigilance. We are facing an unknown fleet of significant size. Stand ready for combat operations. As his fleet of 37 ships moved into defensive positions, Zalf could not shake the feeling that they were about to face something unprecedented. The galaxy had been at peace for centuries. Border skirmishes happened occasionally, but nothing like this. No one fielded fleets of hundreds of ships anymore. It was economically impossible, strategically unnecessary, and politically unthinkable. Then his scanning officer made a sound that Zalf had never heard from her species before. It was a noise of pure disbelief. Commander, final count is stabilizing. I detect 1,047 ships. They're breaking formation now, spreading across multiple vectors. And Commander, I'm picking up a broad-spectrum transmission. It's in multiple languages including standard Council diplomatic code. Play it, Zalf ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was human. Zalf recognized the accent from his brief interactions with Earth's merchants before the withdrawal. The voice was calm, measured, and carried an edge that made Zalth's scales ripple with instinctive warning. This is Ambassador James Kellier of the United Earth Federation. 3 years ago, we withdrew from the Galactic Council after being presented with terms of subjugation. We were told we would collapse within months. We were told our colonies would starve, our ships would fail, and our people would beg for readmission. The Council was mistaken. Zalf watched his tactical display as the human fleet continued its advance. 1,000 ships, each one displaying energy signatures unlike anything in Council databases. We did not collapse. We did not beg. We did not forget. For 3 years, humanity has worked in silence, building, innovating, and preparing. We explored regions of space the Council deemed worthless. We formed alliances with species the Council ignored. We developed technologies the Council never imagined. And now we have returned. The transmission paused. Zalf could hear his own crew breathing, could feel the tension radiating from every being on his bridge. The United Earth Federation is reclaiming all human colonies currently under Council occupation. We are liberating our people who have suffered under alien rule. Any Council military forces that resist will be met with overwhelming force. Any Council vessels that withdraw peacefully will not be harmed. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. Zalf looked at his tactical officer. Analysis. The tactical officer's mandibles clicked nervously. Commander, based on the energy signatures, these ships are using propulsion systems at least 30% more efficient than our best drives. Their power output suggests weapons capabilities far beyond standard Council military vessels. If these readings are accurate, any one of those ships could match 3 of ours in combat capability. Zalf did the mathematics in his head. 1,000 ships, each potentially equal to 3 Council vessels. The humans had effectively brought the equivalent of 3,000 warships. The entire Council military across all member species totaled perhaps 8,000 active combat vessels, scattered across the galaxy. Get me a direct channel to Central Command, Zalf ordered. They need to understand what we're facing here. The message heard across stars. In the Council celebration hall, the party came to an abrupt halt when every display screen suddenly shifted to show the same image. Ambassador James Kellier appeared, standing on what looked like the bridge of a warship. Behind him, human officers worked at stations that glowed with unfamiliar technology. Chancellor Vrex roared in fury. Who authorized this transmission? Shut it down immediately. But the technicians could not shut it down. The human broadcast had somehow overridden every communication system in the station, in the surrounding space, across every Council relay station in the sector. It was going to every screen, every display, every communication device within 20 light years. Citizens of the galaxy, James began, his voice calm but firm. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council gave Earth an ultimatum. Surrender our freedom or face isolation and destruction. We chose freedom. The Council believed we would fail, that humanity could not survive without their guidance and technology. They were wrong. The view behind James changed to show images of human colonies thriving, shipyards building vessels, research stations conducting experiments with technologies that made several Council scientists gasp in recognition. While the Council divided our former territories among themselves, while they celebrated our supposed defeat, humanity was working. We explored regions of space your surveys missed. We found resources your databases did not include. We met species your Council never bothered to contact. And we built something you did not think possible. A fleet strong enough to reclaim our freedom. The view shifted again, this time showing the massive human armada from an external perspective. 1,000 ships, each one sleek and deadly, each one burning with engines that created signatures never before seen in Council space. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to impose our will on others. We are here to take back what is ours and to offer a choice to every species watching this transmission. The Galactic Council claims to bring order and prosperity, but in truth, they bring subjugation. They force young species into submission. They punish innovation. They crush anyone who threatens their control. James leaned forward, his eyes seeming to look directly into every viewer across the sector. But there is another way. The United Earth Federation extends our hand in friendship to any species tired of Council domination. To the Talvran, still paying reparations for crimes your grandparents never committed. To the Irati, whose economy was destroyed by Council trade policies. To the Zerati, forced to work in mines against their will. To dozens of other species crushed beneath the weight of the Council's so-called guidance. High Administrator Meln's light patterns flickered with rage. This is an act of war. Scramble all military forces. I want that human fleet destroyed. But Matriarch Silene raised one hand, her ancient eyes fixed on the screen. Wait. Let him finish. Know your enemy before you strike. James continued, unaware or uncaring of the chaos his broadcast was causing. To the Council leadership, you gave us a choice 3 years ago. Now we give you one. Withdraw peacefully from all human colonies within 48 hours, and we will let you leave unharmed. Continue to occupy our worlds and we will remove you by force. The time for negotiations is over. The time for warnings has passed. Humanity has returned, and we will not be denied our freedom again. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the celebration hall sat in stunned silence. Then Chancellor Vrex smashed his fist into the platform hard enough to crack the crystal surface. Deploy the Grand Fleet. I want every available warship mobilized immediately. We will crush this human insolence once and for all. Ambassador Tyla quietly slipped out of the celebration hall as orders were being shouted and military commanders scrambled to coordinate a response. Her communicator was already receiving messages from her homeworld. The Talvran government wanted to know if the human offer of alliance was genuine. They were not the only ones asking. The point of no return. James walked back into the tribunal hall with steady steps. The 5 minutes had passed, but he knew the arbiters had been listening to his conversation. Nothing was truly private in Council space. Chancellor Vrex leaned forward on his platform. Ambassador Kellier, has Earth reached a decision? James looked up at the 3 supreme arbiters, then slowly turned to address the entire chamber. The United Earth Federation has carefully considered the Council's terms. We recognize the authority that this body claims over the civilized galaxy. We understand the consequences of refusing Council guidance. He paused, letting the silence stretch. However, Earth must respectfully decline these terms. Effective immediately, the United Earth Federation withdraws from the Galactic Council. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Dozens of species representatives began shouting in their native languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. Some aliens jumped to their feet, their biology expressing shock in ways human eyes could barely comprehend. Others activated emergency communication systems, no doubt alerting their home governments of this unprecedented event. Chancellor Vrex's roar cut through the chaos like a blade. The chamber fell silent, but the tension remained thick enough to choke on. Ambassador Kellier, you understand what you have just done? No species has ever voluntarily left the Council. The economic consequences alone will devastate your worlds within months. Your colonies will starve. Your ships will break down. Your people will beg for readmission within a year. James met the Chancellor's yellow eyes without flinching. Perhaps. Or perhaps humanity will surprise you. We've been surprising people since we first stood upright on the African savanna. We've been told we couldn't cross oceans, couldn't fly, couldn't leave our planet, couldn't reach the stars. Every time we proved the doubters wrong. High Administrator Meln's light patterns flickered in what the translators interpreted as confusion. You choose isolation over cooperation? You choose hardship over prosperity? This is illogical. No, James said quietly. We choose freedom over chains. We choose dignity over submission. We choose to stand on our own feet rather than kneel before anyone. Matriarch Silene's 4 hands moved in a pattern of dismissal. Young species always think they are special, that they alone can defy the natural order. The galaxy will teach you the price of arrogance. James turned toward the chamber's main exit. Before he walked through the doors, he looked back one final time. The galaxy didn't teach us anything. We learned our lessons on our own, the hard way, through centuries of mistakes and struggles. Whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way we always have. Together as one species, standing tall. The massive doors sealed behind him with a sound like thunder. The long walk home. The journey from the tribunal hall to the human diplomatic vessel took 20 minutes. James walked through corridors he had traveled countless times, past shops and restaurants where he had shared meals with alien colleagues, through observation decks where he had watched foreign stars and dreamed of a unified galactic future. Other beings moved through the station going about their daily business. Some stared at him with undisguised hostility. Others looked away quickly, afraid to be seen acknowledging him. A few, mostly representatives from smaller species, gave him subtle nods of respect. Captain Maria Santos was waiting at the airlock of the Earth ship Unity. Her dark eyes were filled with questions she did not voice. Ambassador, are we really doing this? James nodded slowly. We're really doing this. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. And Captain, activate all defensive systems. We're no longer under Council protection. As the Unity pulled away from the massive Council station, James stood at an observation window watching it shrink into the distance. Somewhere in that structure, 63 alien species were probably celebrating humanity's foolish decision. They were planning how to divide up former human space, how to exploit the resources of 42 colonies, how to benefit from Earth's inevitable collapse. Let them plan, James thought. Let them celebrate. Let them think they've won. His communication device chimed with an incoming message. It was a private channel, encrypted with military-grade quantum protocols. The face that appeared was Admiral Richard Foster, the commander of Earth's Deep Space Fleet. James, I've received my orders from the President. Operation Silent Vigil is now active. James had been briefed on Silent Vigil 6 months ago, back when it became clear the Council was moving against humanity. It was Earth's contingency plan, a desperate gamble that would either save humanity or doom them completely. How long do you need? James asked. Admiral Foster's expression was grim but determined. 3 years. Maybe less if the scientists' projections are accurate. But James, for this to work, Earth needs to disappear from galactic awareness. No major incidents, no provocations, nothing that would make the Council pay too much attention to what we're doing. The Council thinks we'll collapse within a year, James said. They think we'll come crawling back, begging for readmission on any terms. Let them think that. Let the whole galaxy think humanity is finished. Admiral Foster nodded. 3 years. Then we show them who we really are. The transmission ended. James stood alone in the observation room, watching the stars stream past as the Unity jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, the Council was probably already issuing sanctions and embargoes. Ahead of them, Earth waited in uncertain silence. But somewhere in the darkness between stars, in secret shipyards and hidden research stations, humanity was preparing for something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity would fade quietly into obscurity, another failed species that could not adapt to the harsh realities of galactic politics. They were about to learn a lesson that humans had taught themselves over millennia of history. Never underestimate the determination of beings who have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The silent departure had begun. In 3 years, the burning return would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. The burning return. 3 years of silence. The Galactic Council's celebration hall blazed with light and color. 3 years had passed since humanity's foolish withdrawal, and Chancellor Vrex had declared it a day of commemoration. Representatives from all 63 member species gathered to mark what they called the successful integration of former human territories. The crystal towers of the Council station reflected the lights of 1,000 celebration drones, creating patterns that could be seen from orbit. Chancellor Vrex stood at the center of the grand platform, his dark scales polished to perfection. Around him, species leaders raised their ceremonial vessels in a toast to galactic stability. 3 years ago, a young and arrogant species chose isolation over wisdom, he announced, his voice carrying through translation systems. Today we celebrate the restoration of order. The former human colonies now prosper under proper guidance. Trade routes flow freely without disruption. Peace reigns across sectors that once knew only human aggression. High Administrator Meln's light patterns glowed with satisfaction. The economic models predicted correctly. Without Council support, Earth's infrastructure collapsed. Their colonies surrendered within 18 months. Their military dissolved. Their people learned the price of defying the natural order. Matriarch Silene's 4 hands moved in patterns of benevolent triumph. It is as it should be. The young must learn from the old. Humanity now understands its place in the galaxy. Those who accepted Council guidance survive. Those who resisted have faded into history. In the back of the celebration hall, Ambassador Tyla of the Talvern watched with growing unease. Her species had been subjected to similar treatment 50 years ago, and she remembered the celebrations then too. But something felt wrong about this one. The reports from former human space did not match the triumphant narrative being told tonight. She had received strange communications from Talvern merchants operating in what used to be human territory. Ships disappearing. Entire colonies going silent. Strange energy signatures detected in deep space. The Council's official position was that these were simply pirates or the last desperate actions of human holdouts. But Tyla's instincts told her something else was happening. She quietly activated her personal communication device and sent an encrypted message to her homeworld. Request immediate recall. Something is not right here. The Council is either lying or blind to what is really happening in former human space. The celebration continued around her as fireworks exploded in the void outside the station. Chancellor Vrex announced the opening of new trade routes through former human colonies. High Administrator Meln detailed the economic benefits that would flow to Council members. Matriarch Silene spoke of the wisdom that comes from accepting one's place in the cosmic order. None of them noticed the small alert that appeared on the tactical display in the station's security center. An unidentified fleet had just entered the outer edge of Council space. The silent departure. The weight of decision. The Galactic Tribunal Hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. Ambassador James Kellier stood at the center of it all, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his 47 years of life. Above him, the dome ceiling displayed a live feed of the galaxy itself, billions of stars twinkling like distant witnesses to what was about to unfold. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 63 alien species occupied their assigned platforms, each elevated according to their world's power and influence within the Council. James had walked into this chamber many times over the past 5 years. He had negotiated trade agreements, settled disputes, and built relationships that he thought would last for generations. Today, everything he had worked for was about to crumble. The 3 supreme arbiters sat on the highest platform, looking down at him like gods judging a mortal. Chancellor Vrex of the Krillian Dominion was a massive creature covered in dark scales, his yellow eyes never blinking. Next to him sat High Administrator Meln of the Confederated Worlds, a being made entirely of shifting light patterns that hurt to look at directly. The third figure was Matriarch Silene of the Ancient Collective, her pale skin and 4 arms moving in constant hypnotic patterns. Ambassador Kellier, Chancellor Vrex's voice rumbled through translation devices embedded in every surface. The Galactic Council has deliberated on the matter of Earth's continued participation in civilized space. We have reached a unanimous decision. James straightened his shoulders, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their trembling. He already knew what was coming. The whispers had been circulating for months. Earth had made too many enemies by refusing to play by the unwritten rules that govern galactic society. High Administrator Meln's voice came through as a melodic hum. Humanity has demonstrated a concerning pattern of aggressive expansion and economic disruption. Your species has established 42 colonies in just 20 years. You have undercut established trade networks with unsustainable pricing. You have developed military technology at an alarming rate. Matriarch Silene's 4 hands gestured in a pattern that the translators interpreted as deep concern. Young species require guidance. The Council exists to provide that guidance, to ensure that newcomers do not repeat the mistakes that led to the Dark Wars 3,000 years ago. James wanted to argue. He wanted to point out that human expansion was slow compared to species like the Krillians, who had conquered half their sector through pure military force. He wanted to mention that human traders only offered fair prices while council-approved businesses had been operating monopolies for centuries. He wanted to remind them that Earth's military buildup was purely defensive, a response to repeated border incidents that the council had refused to investigate. But he held his tongue. He had learned that interrupting the arbiters was considered a grave insult. Chancellor Vrex continued, his tone carrying the weight of finality. Therefore, the Council presents the following terms for Earth's continued membership. First, all human military vessels will be reduced to 20% of current strength. Second, all human colonies beyond the Sol system will accept direct Council oversight and governance. Third, Earth will pay reparations totaling 8 trillion Council credits for economic disruption. Fourth, humanity will accept probationary membership status for a period of 100 standard years, during which time your species will have no voting rights on council matters. The chamber fell into complete silence. James could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. 100 years. That was roughly 3 human generations. The council was essentially telling humanity to shut up, sit down, and accept whatever rules the established powers wanted to impose. He thought about his daughter, Emily, who was serving as a colony administrator on New Terra. He thought about his son, Marcus, who commanded a patrol ship protecting human trade routes. He thought about the millions of humans who had left Earth seeking new opportunities among the stars, only to be told they would now answer to alien masters. Ambassador Kellier, High Administrator Meln's voice pulled him from his thoughts. The Council requires Earth's formal acceptance of these terms within 72 hours. Failure to comply will result in immediate expulsion from the Council and the revocation of all protections and privileges associated with membership. The breaking point. James looked up at the 3 arbiters, then slowly turned to survey the entire chamber. Some species representatives looked sympathetic. The Talvern ambassador, whose people had been subjected to similar terms 50 years ago, had tears streaming down her face. The Arati representative, a small furry creature whose world had been economically devastated by council trade policies, was making a gesture that James recognized as one of solidarity. But most of the chamber looked satisfied. The powerful species had once again put an upstart in its place. "May I have a moment to consult with my government?" James asked. Chancellor Vrex waved one massive claw in a dismissive gesture. "You have 5 minutes. Use the communication chamber." James walked across the crystal floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. The communication chamber was a small room off to the side, designed for exactly this purpose. Once inside, he activated the quantum link to Earth. The connection took 30 seconds to establish, faster than light but still limited by quantum entanglement physics. President Adeola Okonkwo appeared in the holographic display. Behind her, James could see the emergency cabinet assembled in the Situation Room beneath Geneva. Military commanders, economic advisors, colony representatives, and scientific leaders all crowded into the frame. "James," the president said softly, "we've been monitoring the session. Tell me honestly, is there any room for negotiation?" James shook his head. "None. They've made it clear this is a take-it-or-leave-it situation. If we accept, we become a subjugated species. Our colonies will be ruled by aliens. Our military will be gutted. Our economy will be crushed by reparations. And we'll have no say in our own future for 100 years. General Wei Qin, the head of Earth's defense forces, leaned into frame. "And if we refuse? Immediate expulsion. Complete economic embargo. No access to council trade networks or technology. No diplomatic protection. Essentially, we become galactic outcasts." The president closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, James saw something he had never seen before in her gaze. It was not fear or doubt. It was cold, hard determination. "James, my grandfather once told me a story about our ancestors in West Africa. When colonial powers came and demanded submission, some kingdoms negotiated. Some surrendered. But some chose to fight for their freedom, knowing the cost would be terrible but understanding that some things are worth more than survival." She paused, looking at each face in the Situation Room. "We've taken a vote. It was unanimous. Earth will not accept subjugation. Not now, not ever. We came from a single planet and spread to the stars through our own effort. We built our ships with our own hands. We established our colonies with our own sweat and blood. If the galaxy wants to isolate us, let them try. Humanity has survived ice ages and world wars. We'll survive this too." James felt something break loose in his chest, a tension he had been carrying for months. Madam President, when I walk back into that chamber and deliver our response, there's no taking it back. The Council will make an example of us. President Okonkwo smiled. Then let them try. Show them who we are, James. Show them that humanity doesn't bow.